So the NTCA Northern Australian Indonesian Pastoral Program ran for more than a decade. It brought together Indonesian university students to northern cattle stations to immerse them in the industry, learning, training and relationship building. Many alumni of this program are now key contributors in the live export supply chain, and the NTCA continues to explore ways to revitalise the program. So now it's time to hear from the next generation. Our panel members work across the supply chain, and I think it's safe to say they all think the industry has a great future. So to lead the conversation, we have the inaugural Livestock Export Young Achiever of the Year Award, Dean Ryan. I won't tell you how long ago that was that he won that award, but he started as a stockie in 1993 and he's still heavily involved in the industry. Please welcome Dean on stage for the introduction, so he can introduce Cindy HERYANTI, Billi Marshall and Jack Webb. Over to you, Dean. You want your paper? Right.
Yeah. That's it? Yeah. Right, well, I'm not going to follow on too well from Basil's emphasis. I'm no career public speaker, but anyway, I'll have a crack at it. I guess 30-odd years ago when I started as a stockman, I stood up and got one of these awards, and I had hair in a different shade of grey, but anyway, now I'm blending right into the crowd. The live export markets have evolved over the years, and many young people have contributed to that development, and I was pleased to be asked and excited to see so many young people still wanting to be involved in the trade. There's a lot of negativity constantly spoken about the trade, and I commend the young people, particularly today, that promote our industry on social media and other platforms, and don't just go with the flow. You know, they want to be out there and prove the public wrong that being in livestock and livestock exports is not a bad thing. So I guess we're all passionate, and many younger aspiring agri-passionate people have gained industry entry through the live export trade, whether it was a boat stockman like me, and you heard young people before, and vets, etc., going on vessels and overseas markets. And I see Yudi sitting here, one of my long-term old compadres that I met as a stockman many years ago. So it presents challenges, it presents changes, and it presents champions. And I guess when I started, it was a very broad role. You had to be a cattle buyer, a ship charterer, a foreign currency hedger, a commercial banker, a good bullshit artist, and sometimes you go overseas and sing a karaoke, sign a pro forma invoice, and you thought you were a marketing manager. Today's a lot different. It's very siloed. There's welfare, there's compliance, there's finance, there's marketing, there's production, and the young people today can enter all facets of that and really thrive. So I think it does present challenges, changes and champions. And there's many career paths, and it's very broad, that you can go into the live export trade. And we're about to hear about that from our panel. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce firstly Cindy HERYANTI from Indonesia. Welcome. Cindy has a Masters of Animal Science and is currently oversees the planning and implementation of various projects for Forum AWO in Indonesia to ensure that animal welfare standards are met. This includes risk assessments, site visits, technical training and social media activities. Jack Webb. Hi, Jack. Jack's been involved in the live export industry for 12 years, working in roles including a shipboard stockman, a livestock buyer and operations manager. He's recently taken on the role of GM with PT Indonesia Livestock Operations, which is owned and operated by AAM Investment Group. Billi Marshall, our cowgirl. At just 25, Billi stepped out, purchased her own pregnancy testing business and hit the road, not knowing what was on her way to developing one of the leading specialised cattle reproductive businesses within Western Australia. 4 years later, Imperial Bovine Breeding Services, which Billi is principal of, offers a range of reproductive and herd management services for the live export trade. And I'm pleased to say I'm one of her clients. Although you could get a few more pregnant, Billi. Don't know what we did wrong. So first of all, Billi, I'll hit the first question with you. What's your daily role in BBS look like, and could you just give everyone a bit of an insight about how you assist producers align with today's live export expectations for presentation of export stock?
Cool, thank you, Dean. And first off, on behalf of myself, Cindy and Jack, we'd just like to thank LiveCorp and ALEC for the opportunity to be up here today and present to you all. We've definitely seen a tremendous lineup over the last 2 days of presenters, so thank you for letting us be involved in this and hear a bit of our story. So, as Dean mentioned, I'm an accredited preg tester within Western Australia. I worked for a vet for several years before purchasing the business and going out on my own. Approximately 80% of my business is predominantly preg testing, with about half of that being towards the export market. So I work with producers and exporters such as Dean to help with the pregnancy testing side of heifers, to making sure they are fit to load. So every heifer or female animal that goes on an export boat is pregnancy tested and determined not detectably pregnant or empty, and it has to be within 30 days prior to going on a voyage. So that's really where I prioritise my attention, to making sure that I'm doing an accurate job of that. Every animal is electronically recorded and certified with my name at the bottom of every page saying I tested these animals and this is the result we determined. Alongside that, I do my best to work with producers and our stock agents and industry professionals to, at the end of the day, it's another set of eyes over the animals. We want to make sure those animals look healthy, they're eating, they've got a nice shiny coat, they're walking well, there's no signs of illness or sores or anything like that, because we want to ensure those cattle are at their peak health to be able to undertake that voyage. Yeah.
Thanks, Billy. And one of the great things about your electronic documents is exporters actually get them, and we don't have to chase all the agents and the vendors every day for them, so keep doing that. Cindy, your Bahasa is way better than my English, actually. Anyway, I'd just like to know, why did you build a career in the live export industry or see that opportunity in Indonesia from a young lady's perspective?
Thank you for the questions, Dan. I choose both the career and livestock export industry because it offers unique combinations of the impacts, responsibility, and long-term opportunity. With my educational backgrounds in animal science, past but of the postgraduate and undergraduate levels, I have always been interested how livestock production knowledge can be applied to improve animal welfare, production efficiency, and supply chain sustainability. In the facts, data in industry is very directly contribute of the food security, support thousands of livelihood and connections across production and consumer across country. And in the facts, data show one feedlot in Indonesia managing of populations 50,000 until 60,000 cattle can be support up to 12,000 households in Indonesia. The data show the industry very high impact for the household in Indonesia.
Well, that'll certainly make a few of the people in the room happy about the cattle going to Indonesia. Jack, could you just give us a quick snapshot of your role? So you're specialised now living up in market in Indonesia and for your Australian producer company, AAM.
Yeah, so I've been in Indonesia for 7 months now. So PT ILO has been operating for 18 months. Throughout that time, I mean, with the beginning, there's a great rise in investment opportunities from Australian businesses to go into Indonesia. And that being, from the article of cattle that might be slightly harder to sell in Australia, it's a great opportunity for us to be able to send those to Indonesia, feed ourselves, and then send them to the market as a good supply of protein. I mean, the president, in terms of the investment side of things, the Indonesian president has a nutritious meals program, which, ideally trying to be a part of that and make sure that the relationship between Australia and Indonesia is maintained and that we can provide as much as we can to Indonesia without them having to try and look elsewhere. You know, especially considering how highly regarded Australia is for its animal health and welfare. And even, you know, we're seeing a shift in Indonesia for the, you know, parts of it wanting that sort of higher quality away from just the traditional wet markets and everything. And we have recently done a box meat trial, which we had terrific results on, and that was from the article of cattle, the composites that we've specifically bred at the owned and operated stations of AAM in Northern Territory. So I think it's looking very good for the future for investment of Australian businesses to Indonesia, and we've certainly got some exciting plans ahead.
Thanks, Jack. Back to you, Billy. Not escaping just this quick. What are some of the challenges you see on farm for producers supplying the live export market? You've got time of the year and weather and all other things. And just what are those things that you see on farm level that you think could benefit a better result at the other end? Because it all starts how they're done on the farm.
It does, and you know, as you know, Dean, farming's the hardest job in the world on a good year. So when we add in all the uncontrollables like climate and cyclones and droughts and disease and all of that can really hit our production hard, then we've still got to try produce and sell a product. And at the end of the day, beef production is a business, it is a business model, and hopefully we all get to make a little bit of money at the end of it. One of the biggest challenges I think I see on farm, and definitely with the targeted export market, is meeting market specifications and weight ranges. And this is predominantly, and it's no criticism to pastoralists as their cattle aren't growing, but when you're running an open breeding program where the cows can potentially get pregnant or calve at any time throughout the year, eventually you're going to end up with a lot of variation in your calves. You're going to have everything from what we call freshies and your little newborns in the yards right up to 300 kilo weaners. And so in my role, we really try to optimise and educate producers on how can we close that window up a little bit? How can we run a better controlled program so we know when our cows are going to be calving, we know when those calves are going to hit the ground, and we can work out, righto, Dean's going to be ringing me in November saying I need 300 heifers or I need 500 steers in this weight range. What do we have? And you can fill that order. And I think that's really where, and it comes back to, yeah, your exporters and your stock agents knowing that and going, we know we can call this producer and they're going to be able to fill this order or provide those animals because they've got that controlled measurement over their herd. And I think that's something we'd really like to see improve throughout pastoral properties and through the north. And don't get me wrong, it's not easy, it's not going to happen overnight, and it's not going to happen for free. But little things like that we can work towards tightening those gaps up to maximise that sale. So instead of getting maybe 50 animals that can fit that order, you might have 60 or 80 or 100. Along with that, trying to optimise, as we heard earlier this morning, what the client wants. If the client wants polled cattle, we can utilise genetics, and there's so much technology going into data selection and genetic selection of animals that we can target those polled animals, or we can target a slick-coated animal or something that's not going to throw any white or nice hooded eyes and things like that to really direct our genetics of our production of what we're trying to produce to make sure that, again, every single one of those calves being born is going to qualify for that market.
Thank you, Billy. I think that'll be a big thing, and it's already progressing. We're seeing that, and worst trouble is then they'll be ringing up Helene wanting another 10 cents over what I've got. Anyway, so Cindy, could you just explain to me just a bit about what your roles and responsibilities are with the Forum AWO in Indonesia and the people in the crowd here so they understand?
Thank you for the questions, Dan. I currently serve as project supervisor from Forum AWO Indonesia. Forum AWO Indonesia is an organization for animal welfare officer in Indonesia. Our members from the exporters and importers in Indonesia. I work closely with the partner to manage and support the various projects. focusing strengthening animal welfare practices in Indonesia and improving operational standards across in the supply chains. We also support by the key industry stakeholder. Thank you so much for the Indonesian Beef Cattle Business Association, Meat and Livestock Australia, LiveCorp, Australia Indonesia Institute, Indonesian Australian Red Meat and Cattle Partnership, as well as exporters and importers in Indonesia. Thank you for support Forum AW Indonesia mission to promote sustainable and responsible animal welfare principles in Indonesia. My role and my responsibility, I am a center coordination training for the supply chains and the capacity building for the workers Australian beef cattle supply chains in Indonesia, especially for animal welfare officer. And I'm also ensuring that all projects with our partners run smoothly. That is my roles and my responsibility.
Thank you very much, Cindy. I'm sure you'd all realise too that the impact that this has had in Indonesia, particularly, like before Joe Ludwig ran off the rails and did a snap suspension those years ago, we just didn't have this in-market focus that we've got now. And so we thank you very much also, Cindy, and all your team for what you do up there. A lot of people don't realise how much work actually goes on in market to keep it alive. So it's very important, and it's also ongoing, and it has to be ongoing for many years to come. So Jacko, back to you. What are the major sort of changes that you've observed in your 12 years in the live export trade and other ones that you see going forward?
Thanks, Dean. I think, to what you've just said, I wasn't on boats in 1993, it was 2013, but I think the numbers were about the same. Indonesia was taking 850,000 cattle a year. Every big ship available was going out of Darwin and Broome. And the biggest, change for me would be the decrease in number. But what has come with that is a very large push forward, and the new people coming through into the industry and the technology out there is the uplift in how we do things. How do we improve the animal health and welfare? The markets have all been, discharge weight. So unlike the negativity that's surrounding the industry, the better the animals perform on the ship, then the more commercial gain there is. And I think I've seen from when, and it was never bad. I loved being on the boats, and the cattle always travelled well, and everyone loved doing it. But there's a lot more ideas now on how we can improve it, how you can have the cattle fit and healthy a lot quicker on board, or minimising it, as well as the quality of cattle that's being exported as well. That there's a decrease in horns and everything going over. There's the higher push for the high-grade Brahmins, which is not always good. Wouldn't mind some more people accepting those composite and crossbreeds. But I think going forward, and the young people that are here at LiveX that are in the industry, it's all being pushed in the right direction to make it that sustainable industry that, regardless of what's happening in other sectors, with the sheep, that the cattle will be the mortality rates will be dropping. Everything will keep increasing in terms of the efficiency and the health and welfare of it, to ensure that we have the industry here for a long time to come.
Yeah, thanks, Jack. And I think that's important, particularly for young people in the audience today, that they got to know that there's a future. And I haven't been here the last 2 days, but I'm sure a lot of the talk has been about ensuring there is a future. And so, Billy, that leads on to my question to you. So here's your 5 seconds of fame, but how do you see, what's something you could really champion going forward, do you think, for the industry as a young person, and particularly a young female in the production sector?
I think, Dean, it's a very big question, and I have thought about it a lot over the last couple of days. And I really think the education piece about why we do certain things Yes, it's all well and good to run a low-stress stock handling course on your property, but why does low-stress stock handling matter? What does it contribute to? Is it desensitising those animals to be, around humans, to be put into a smaller confined space on a lower deck on a ship when you've got your stockies and your crew handling those animals? Why is it important to have clean injection sites when you're vaccinating your animals to reduce infection? Why do we vaccinate? And I think definitely in the producer sector, we're doing a lot of things right, but I feel with so many young people coming through the industry, and don't get me wrong, we have so many young people keen to be a part of this industry. So many people out there searching for jobs. How do I get a job on a station? I want to go up north. I want to experience this. How do we actually educate them as to why we do these things? Not just, oh, well, that's what the stocky told me, or that's what the boss said to do. Is actually getting a better education throughout our industry about why these things are important. So then when we produce that animal, and that animal's fit for market, and it's healthy, and it's got a nice shiny coat, and it's up to weight, and we can put that animal safely onto a truck, it can travel, it can go to a depot yard, it can adjust to feed, it can, like we've heard this morning, animals are putting on weight on a vessel. And that is a massive credit to all of those people involved in that, because I think that's a tremendous feat. And it's, I think, something we could really, really, really contribute to, and something I personally hope I can contribute to in one way or another, that we can better educate the people coming through our industry, not just the general public, but those within our industry of why is what we're doing so important.
Thanks, Billy. I love your passion. Cindy, just a question for you, and this is getting back to social media now. And recently there's been a bit of activism noticed in Indonesia in regards to animal welfare on social media. And that's probably a big surprise to a lot of us back here in Australia, because we all think that most people in Indonesia would be just happy to have a bit of protein. But there is an affluent part of the society up there now, and we're getting the negativity as well in Indonesia. And I'd just like you to touch on that, please, for the audience, and let them know what Forum AWO is doing to be a bit proactive in Indonesia on the other side on social media. Because it's all a bit scary for us old guys, but you young people know how to handle it.
Forum AWO does not respond activism animals with the confrontation. We respond the activism animals with the social media campaigns. We distribute poster educationals, and we consultation with the legals to obtain the guidance when any issue arise. But beside that, we also consistently to attend if any invitations from the activism animals, such as focus group discussions, regional meeting. For us, participating in the forum is not only for the respect, but it's also important strategy to monitor the development, to understanding the direction of the movements, and to corrections. If any misinformation of more misinformations. That's it.
Thank you, Cindy. And it's important to have people in market, particularly that can speak the language and know the culture, to counter some of the negativity. Like, it's not just here in Australia, it's other parts of the world, and we thank you very much for that. Jack, back to you now. What do you and other members, younger members, see as sort of supplies and negative in regards to sediment to the live export trade, particularly, not just livestock, on social media? You guys have everyone walking around here can't seem to trip over. They just look at their phone all day, so I'd like to know what you see on there.
Yeah, and I think with social media, there's always a positive and a negative, and that's never going to change. But, I think that the younger people in live export and, supply chains are going at it in the correct way, you know, with Weiland, the Livestock Collective, of just putting out all the positive that the industry is doing, not worrying about the negative, not engaging, not having confrontation like Cindy said, you know, and just going about our business, showing everyone out there that, you know, there's always going to be the negativity. Someone's always going to have something to say, or, you know, a picture go up that's misled. But we just continue trying to prove as we go and have that out for the world to see, because at the end of the day, I think we, you know, with all these groups and what they are doing, that, you know, that gains more traction than the one photo. And, you know, I think that Weiland Livestock Collective should be very proud in where they've come to, especially in really pushing that social media part forward, because, you know, I've sort of seen since they've started that there's a lot more individual people outside of that are you know, open to pushing the positive message. As per, you know, previously it was, you know, just don't engage in social media, and there's always a negativity there, and you just, you know, not worry about it. But end of the day, there's nothing wrong with what we're doing, and we all love the cattle. We all want them to the whole process from Australia to when they're processed in the importing country to have a good run. So, you know, it's good that it's out there.
Thanks, Jack, and I acknowledge too what the Livestock Collective and Weiland have done. They've really lifted the profile, not just of live export, but of the whole livestock industry in Australia, and probably helping us all gain a few employees for young people wanting to be in the industry. And that leads on to my next question, Billy. What advice have you got for a young person really wanting to have a crack and get into the industry? What's your advice to them?
Thanks, Dean. I think it speaks for itself. If you look around this room, it's actually quite exciting to see how many young faces we have in here. No disrespect to all of our older members of the industry, but it's really complimenting to see so many young people coming out to attend these events. And I will give a shout out to the NTCA Future Leaders group that have been with us for the last 2 days, because I had quite a good chat with some of them last night, and I really commend them for the work they're doing themselves. Look, my advice to any young person is just get in and go hard. Like, this industry can take you so many ways. There's no set pathway. I know we've spoken, Dean, about, you know, the journey you've taken to get into the industry versus mine couldn't be leagues apart, but here we are working together in this industry and contributing to the export market in one way, shape or form. My message though really is actually to the managers and owners in the room. We need to be investing in our next generation. We've got plenty of young people who want to join our industry, but we are failing to keep them. We're losing them left, right and centre. And whether it's based on lifestyle, pay or upskilling, we're actually losing vital members of our industry that are coming through the ranks. And this just refers to, I will refer to just producers. I can't speak for the rest of the supply chain, but we need to be investing in that next generation, those guys that have been with you for 2-3 years. It doesn't matter, it doesn't have to be a helicopter licence. It could be an online accounting course or a bookkeeping course. Bull sale catalogues are free. All right, hit your stock agent up, get 10 catalogues, have them on the kitchen table at the smoko room and say, righto, Fitzroy sales coming up, all of you pick a bull and give me a pitch as to what we should be buying. Make them think about how their decisions contribute to the operation of that property, okay? And if they happen to pick, you know, a skin yellow, bloody droughty cross with a big set of horns and, you know, a white patch on his belly, and they go, this is the one, boss, this is the one. If it's not suitable, explain to them why it's not suitable. And if they do happen to pick, you know, a nice big grey Brahman who's polled and hooded eyes and ticks all the boxes, go, actually, yeah, we'll go have a look at him on the day and we'll let you know. Get them involved, because that sort of stuff takes very little effort. It does take a bit of effort, but it's quite minimal, but the contribution that has to their career, because if you happen to go and that was already the bull you might have picked out, but you bring him home, they think, I got that right. that was my bull, that was my choice. So we really need to be engaging and looking after our young people, because I think they play such a vital role, and they will be sitting in these chairs one day, and you know, it might not be me sitting up here addressing them then, but I hope to see a next generation of people coming through, and we really need to be doing more to keep them involved.
Thank you, Billy, and I think everyone here listening would echo that immensely. Cindy, just getting on to Indonesia again, how do you see the future with all the investment that the Forum AWA has made into animal welfare and training, but particularly a lot of young people in Indonesia are involved in that side of it, and how do you see that promoting the future of the industry in Indonesia?
My hope in the live export industry in Indonesia continue to grow with the high animal welfare standard, sustainable and strong traceability, because this industry is not only important for the supply chains, but also important to the economic backbone of thousands of families in Indonesia, provider employment, and the key part of Muslim cultural practice to require excess fresh meat during the major celebrations, religion.
Thank you, Cindy, and just keep forging on up there. We need that to keep going. Jack, final question for you. We're getting into the wound down time. Is what do you see as sort of, you know, you're a young guy up there living in market. What do you see as sort of future opportunities in Indo? It hasn't all been done and dusted, so there's always something. What's your insights?
I think really, you know, Indonesia and going forward, and the consumption of red meat in Indonesia is rising. And I think that's really something to focus on, because it won't bring back the numbers that Indonesia was receiving 10 years ago, but you know, the biggest issue there at the moment is the cattle price in Australia, and there's nothing that can be done about that. But it's trying to educate Indonesia about why the price is what it is, and that's set by a lot of global factors, and really just trying to hope that the relationship between both countries maintains. I mean, Indonesia is looking at other possible options at the moment, which everyone in this room doesn't see as viable. But I think that, you know, we're their neighbours, and we really need to highlight that and how important that relationship is in trying to provide for their food security and, you know, their push for self-sufficiency. That's where the future's going to lie. They're trying to make a lot of changes, and they are ambitious changes that that they currently have, but that's always been the play around Indonesia, and what their expectations are is to push to self-sufficiency. And Australia is still the best option to provide them with the sustainable protein that they do need to feed their population, and as well as for, as Cindy said, all the festive periods with the Muslim religion. So, yeah, really, I think where the industry is at the moment in terms of the export, I think if we can maintain that, then we're doing quite well, and really just push to increase wherever we can between the two countries.
Thanks, Jack. Just wondering if anyone's got any questions from our younger members from the floor. These panel sessions are supposed to be interactive, so don't all be too shy. Oh, we got one over here. Right, Johnny.
Dean, don't go far, because it's actually for you. You've famously trained a lot of young people over the years, and I was looking at what skills and values you really try to instill in your young trainees early on.
Shit, John, that's hard to answer. Most of them don't stay. I'm not real good at long-term employment. That's not a real good promotion. But first of all, you've got to have grit if you want to work with me. And I think that's just part and parcel of the trade. You know, there's a lot of challenges day and night, and, you know, I'll give you a really good example. We were mustering about 6 months ago. It was hot, and my children's grandfather was on the tail walking along, and there's a guy on a motorbike. It was nearly dark, and he's whinging on the two-way. You know, this is bullshit. We're going along, and it's dark, and we haven't yarded up and whatever. And my youngest daughter said on the two-way, "Toughen up, mate. My granddad's walking." So, you know, that's the sort of thing we've got to look in people, and I think there are those young people out there that have got a lot of grit. It's very courageous to jump on a boat, go to a foreign country. You don't know what you're going into. Sometimes the exporter doesn't even tell you that you need a visa to get home. You don't know what hotel you're staying at till you get an itinerary on your phone these days. So that's a big thing, is to have the courage and the grit to have a go. And anyone that turns up with a smile in modern agriculture, on time in the morning, early, and works till after dark, will have a job forever and probably go up the ladder very, very quickly. And I think I see a lot of elders' shirts here today, Nutrien and other companies, not just exporters, and they're all chasing the same thing. They want people with grit and a bit of ticker, and I think that's what the rural industry's got in spades. So we're very, very lucky, and we should all be pretty proud. Any more questions? Don't get me for HR employment though, not real good.
One for you, Jack. You're talking composite breeds, and I've heard sort of different things on that. In terms of building the acceptance for composites in Indonesia, do you think it's a matter of, say, breed societies going up there and trying to, you know, sell them on their traits and that type of thing? Or is the preference for a grey Brahman some other reason, and it's not something you can change their minds on just, you know, through that kind of lobbying?
It's a good question. There's really not one answer. And I think the main part of it is, you know, if those breed societies did, you know, lobby over there and try and, you know, get that through, that would help greatly. I think the education is a big part of it. You know, the mentality at the moment is that grey Brahman, and they believe, you know, that that's the article that cattle they need from the commercial sense. It's also the target of different areas in Jakarta, Indonesia, because you will have different areas in Jakarta that will happily take composites every day of the week. You go 4 hours the other way and it's only high grade. It will take a lot, but I think that to this day there hasn't been the full education or from the breed society and everything to try and push that back in like it was 10 years ago when it was a big numbers game and they were taking a lot of that then.
I think Terry's presence here, looking at the clock, we're nearly done.
We can take one more, do you? If there's another question we can.
Is there any more from the floor, or I can't see anyone rushing up, so thanks everyone for your... Sorry?
Just use the mic if you could so that everybody can hear the question, please.
Just Jack, with your knowledge in market at the moment, you're there. How real is the talk of the Brazilian imports? Do you think that's obviously it's technically feasible? Do you think commercially and the acceptance within Indonesia to try that option, do you think?
Look, it's hard to talk about it, you know, not being involved in those discussions. There have been a lot lately with Indonesia looking for a trial of it, but from what I've seen and heard from the importer perspective, it's a logistical nightmare even, you know, to have that many importers and everything on one ship, and to the duration of the voyage from Brazil to Indonesia. If it's going to happen, I'm not sure, but I still think that even if there are a couple voyages, Australia will still be the priority in terms of that. I think it's sort of like Vietnam, but they took one shipment a few years ago, and it didn't quite work out logistically. Well, for consistent supply anyway.
All right, thank you very much. We might leave it there. Can I really ask you to bring your hands together and thank Cindy, Billy and Jack?